I believe you can have it all and you don't have to struggle to get it. If life feels hard, your task seems impossible, or you just don't like the options laid out before you, I promise you there is a better way. My name is Melanie McSally, your Better Way architect, and I welcome you to the WyzeCast Show. Today, our special guest is Janet Morrison, who uses her gifts and wisdom to help herself and others find the answers they seek. She's here today to teach us about the power of angelic numerology and how you might use this modality to find your better way. So welcome, Janet.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Excited to have you. I am a big believer and lover of numerology, and so I'm excited to learn about this new division of numerology, type of numerology. So
Right. Yeah.
so just tell us a little bit about what angelic numerology is and maybe
Okay.
how does it differ from angelic.
Regular. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So traditional and like modern numerology, it looks at life path numbers, which would be like the adding of your whole birthday number. And then it goes into your name. It does a lot more with your name to get like soul urges, destiny numbers, those kinds of things. So that's the traditional numerology. Angelic numerology is looking at just the numbers of your birthday. So it's missing out. If we just calculate just your whole life path number, you're missing out on all the goodness in all the what we call pillar numbers. You have three pillar numbers, which is like month your month number, your day number, and your year number. They all mean something. They all bring an energy to you. So looking at it all together creates a very nice little, I call it a birthday story. So it's a story your birthday is here to tell you, and it gives you so much insight on who you are, your challenges, your strengths, what lessons you're here to do, things like that. So it gives you a lot of really good idea on what to do in your life, and give you a kind of, instead of just shooting in the dark, you have a path to follow. So it's really nice. It's kind of neat how it plays out. So yeah, so that's kind of the difference.
Nice. And so is there any sort of relationship, and the answer could be no, but is there any sort of relationship between angelic numerology in your birthday and astrology in your birthday?
So there is some overlap between the two. So kind of the difference is numerology is looking at the numbers, right? So it's looking at the energy and the frequency of the numbers of your birthday, whereas astrology is looking at the sky when you were born. So how the planet alignments and stuff like that. But you will see so much overlap because you'll be like, it's a one, it's like, oh, that's a Capricorn, right? So you can see a lot of like, I get a lot too when I do readings. They're like, oh, that's the Libra in me. And I'm like, yeah, it's also because of your numbers. So there's a lot of overlap between the two, but we're just looking at it in a different lens in a way, if that kind of makes sense. So,
Yeah. So my month is 9. No,
okay.
sorry, my day is 9. My month is 7, so I'm July.
Okay. What's your year? Or you can, we can just add it up. So if you look at the seven and the nine, so the nine is a humanitarian and the seven is a philosopher. So you're like a deep thinker, you're very curious about different things, and then the nine's a humanitarian. So what you're doing is like already aligned with two of your numbers. We would get the whole picture by your year. The year you would just take and add them all up and get that number. And then we would add all three of them to get your number. So we look at how all of them work together. So it's really kind of cool. So I could go like mine is like I'm a 3, a 1, a 22, and then my overall is an 8. So then we look at like what each one of them mean and then how they all mean together. So it's kind of cool to see how they all work. So
Nice.
yeah.
Well, I was born in 1976. I'll be 50 this year.
Nice. I just turned 50, so welcome to the club. All right, let me see what this is really quick. I like to do it by the calculator because I always say I can't math when I'm on the spot and I don't want to mess it up. I'm fine, but this. Oh, you got a 5 in there. Okay. Okay. So in this, so your numbers, you're a 7, a 9, a 5, and a 3 overall. So as we talk about this, it'll probably make a lot of sense. So your 5 is the adventure, and your 3 is the artist. So overall, you're a communicator. It's all about communicating, expressing yourself in whichever way that is. So the fact that you have a podcast kind of aligns right along with that. And then when we look at that, like traditional numerology would just look at your three, and it would just talk about you being an artist, a communicator, expressing yourself. But if you don't look at the other ones, like the seven, with this like the deep thinker and the curiosity, and then you add the nine in, which is a humanitarian. So that leads into what you're doing right now. It all feel you probably feel like you're kind of in the flow on your purpose because it all kind of aligns together. So it gives you like a bigger picture, if that kind of makes sense. So your five and your three, when I see these two together, you're probably one that's never met a stranger because you're outgoing and you like to ask questions. You're very curious. So you probably like ask a lot of questions. How are you doing? Probably good for you to interview people on a podcast. It's kind of crazy how it all aligns. So it's kind of neat to see how they all look together. So yeah.
Well, what's interesting is that um, I guess there is a part of me that's outgoing, but there's also a part of me that just is the crab, is the Cancer crab, and just likes to be the
Hmm.
homebody and is an introvert and doesn't really love to socialize. Like I don't really love big, huge networking events or things of that nature.
Hmm.
But I do resonate with the fact that nobody is a stranger because I tend to like cut right through and I don't just listen to their words at face value. I sort of like think behind
Think it.
the scenes,
Hmm.
like what's behind what they're saying
Yep.
to me.
Yep.
I'm a Scorpio rising, so I also am like I can cut through the bullshit.
Hmm.
um,
Well, and so a lot of that is your seven as well, because your seven as a philosopher is you do like to self-isolate, you do like to be by yourself. Like sevens are fine being by themselves. They enjoy this. You kind of almost need to recharge your social battery. But sevens are also like a seeker of truth. So you're always learning things and how the world works and stuff, and you're always doing this. So the sevens are almost like human lie detectors. You can tell because you have so much intuition, so much intelligence, like you were tapped in, so you would definitely like be able to like cut through all that stuff and get right to the business.
yeah,
So it's kind of
yeah,
cool how they work together.
yeah. I would say I can almost see it visually. I can't actually, but I almost can see it visually when the words that are coming out of somebody's mouth are not in aligned. Like
Mhm.
you're like,
Yep. That's those are the sevens. Yeah, they're always like, yeah, because your intuition is right on, and then you're like, something doesn't feel right here. So, yep.
yeah. So this is cool. Okay, so if somebody is coming, well, generally speaking, what do people come to you for? Like, what are the top big three things that people are seeking out when they're wanting to know what their angel numbers are?
Yeah. So typically I do like little mini readings on TikTok, and people at first they're just like, "Oh, this is cool. Let me figure out what my numbers are." And then typically what will happen is people will feel seen and heard. So there's sometimes the numbers will say something they've never said out loud. So like I had one lady that was on one of my lives and she was crying because she was like, "I've never felt so seen. Like I've never had words to what I've felt on the inside." Because she was so sensitive with all of her numbers being so sensitive. And I was telling her how it's her superpower and all that kind of stuff. I said, "You're just misunderstood." And she's like, "Oh my gosh, nobody's ever said it that way. I always thought something was wrong with me." And so it's kind of a cool thing because first they come to me of kind of like, "Hey, I want to know what my numbers are." And then once they find out what their numbers are, they're like, oh, some of them are, I also get like, "Are you spying on me? Do you have somebody in my closet? Like, how do you know these things about me?" You know? So like looking at your three has, you're very creative and things like that, but your three has also got scattered energy. So you probably have half started, half finished projects around your house, collector of hobbies or things like that. And so like they're like, how do you know that? But it's because of your numbers. It's how you're living out your numbers in your life. So it's really kind of cool. So then sometimes they'll want to go deeper. So I have things to go deeper. So then we can go into and actually look at, I actually have sometimes some people who don't resonate with their numbers. And so when we start looking at it, we realize they're in their shadow side of the numbers. So if you're not living in alignment with your numbers, you'll be in the shadow side of your numbers. And sometimes that will come out in different ways. Like for threes, have a lot of self-doubt, so that you would doubt yourself a lot and be very like dim yourself, not very be very talkative, things like that if you were in the shadow side. So then we work together to kind of move you from your shadow side to your gift side so that you can feel more in alignment. Your three is your joy number. When you want to have more joy, that's the whole point of, the numbers. So when you can do that, it kind of evens life out a little bit when you can understand what's happening underneath. Sometimes we'll find numbers that are dueling energy. So a four and a five would have opposite energy. So they feel crazy because they're like, sometimes I'm organized, sometimes it's chaotic. I don't get it. Like, how can I, and it's because of their numbers. When they learn how to balance them, now they're more in alignment. They don't feel crazy or, that kind of stuff. And then I have things of compatibility blueprints where we look at your numbers versus somebody else's. And then you can look at like how do they get along. Um, like I do it with my kids. I have it with my kids as well. So like knowing their numbers, now I know how to relate to them. I have a better relationship with my teenage son because I understand his numbers. He is a seven as well. So when he's out socializing with all his friends, he wants to come home and go in his room and hang out. And I have a three, so I'm like, I want to talk to you, right? And so like I have to remember, okay, I got to give him his space, and then he'll come out and talk to me, and then I get the connection. But if I try to force the connection right away, then we have butt heads, and he gets mad at me, and then that shuts down the connection. So it's just like learning these little things can kind of help your life have a lot more like flow, easy. We all want better like relationships with the people around us and stuff like that. But if we understand our numbers, it kind of helps us. So it's
Yeah.
in a nutshell, basically.
Yeah. No, it's great because when I went on my whole journey of wanting to like utilize my entire authentic self and not just like sit in one strength or another,
Mhm.
um, I landed on no matter what, I want to make sure that I'm serving with compassion, living in joy, inviting in abundance, and just feeling free. And so those were my sort of like keywords and my indicators to whether or not I was going to say yes or no to a client or a project or whatever. And I do some things like if somebody looked at my portfolio, this is probably the three in me, but if somebody looked at my portfolio, they'd be like, how are these things related? I don't get it. Like, because they're related through joy, compassion, and freedom.
So what's funny is your joy is your three number, your freedom's your five number, and your compassion's your nine number. So they all align with the numbers that you have is where you're going. So it's so cool to see, like you're in alignment, but you don't even, like how it plays out. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And so what
As
would be
long
the word for
go ahead.
my seven number? I'll just add it to the soup.
So your seven, so your seven has a lot of curiosity in there. It also has a lot of freedom and independence. So that kind of, the seven and the five, I call them cousin numbers because they're very similar. Um, your seven is also like the philosophy. You're the philosopher, right? So the finding, I want to learn new things. What are the new things I'm going to learn? How can I then integrate it into my life and stuff like that? So the seven is kind of like in the mix of it all, maybe not necessarily a word per se, but maybe in the alignment with the intuition, right? Your intuition part, that's seven. The seven's tapped in more than any other number. It's got like it's like direct line. It's connected. So, but
Yeah.
learning, yeah. So I think your seven's just kind of in the, kind of sets the foundation for all the other ones. So.
Yeah, that's what I was feeling when you were describing it is the foundation. Because when I'm serving from a personal growth perspective as well. And I'm also always learning to be able, because I'm in technology as well as
Hmm.
consulting. And so, you got to stay up with the Joneses or,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I'm the same. I have a three. I'm always like I like to tinker with, and I'm a builder too. So I like to build things. So the whole like learning how to do all that stuff is like, ooh, that's my jam.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
so interesting to me since I've started this particular phase of my podcast and learning about all these different modalities. I started by just going into a Facebook group and doing a post and being like, these are the modalities I want to learn about. Who wants to come teach me?
Yeah.
And I think I got like 68 responses. And I've been slowly going through them and like just feeling into which ones feel aligned. and
Hmm.
not just the modality, but the people that
Right.
responded. And then reaching out, and I'm 100 for 100 of like, I've reached out and they've been like, so there's so much symmetry between who they are as a person and who I am as a person, yourself included, of just like, oh wow, we have so many similarities.
Hmm. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, really cool.
It's neat when you like allow yourself to lean into your intuition, right? Lean into that part and trusting it. You see more, you get that alignment and that flow when it happens more and more. And it's almost like the more it happens, the more you believe it, the more you're like, oh, there's something to this. And it's kind of cool. You know, we have to overcome all the blocks and stuff, but it's cool when we finally lean into it and go, oh, this is what I've been missing.
Yeah.
It's really cool how it all works. Yeah.
Um, so we were talking earlier. I have a few questions that are coming to
Okay.
mind, but we were
Yeah.
talking earlier about sort of the overlap between numerology and astrology.
Hmm.
And there's a collection of people who just don't know their time of birth, and maybe they don't have a way to figure that out. And what I'm noticing is that there's so much overlap in what you're telling me, as well as
Hmm.
me knowing my birth chart. And I do know my time of birth, so I know it
Yeah.
extensively. But there's so much overlap that it's almost like they could use numerology to to get that information if they don't know their birth, the exact time of birth. Is Would you agree?
Yes. Yeah, correct. Yeah, because you don't need the time of birth and where you're at, because that's the astrology part's looking at the planet. So the more accurate you are of time of birth and like where you're at gives it exactly where the stars were aligned when you were born. Whereas numerology, yeah, we're just looking at the numbers of your birth day. And so that gives us, like you said, there's so much into it. There's a lot of, and it's untapped. Nobody's really doing it. Everybody does the other stuff, so it's kind of almost untapped. But the more that we dig into it, you can learn a lot about that, even if you don't have the exact date or time, the exact date, the time of your birth, right? Because yeah, some people don't know that because of their circumstances, but yeah, they would still get a lot out of this because it would have a lot of overlap. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So generally speaking,
Hmm.
um, I have found that the major um, the major life things that people are focusing on when they're overcoming barriers or looking for areas of focus in their life are relationships and all the things that go along with that, finances and all the things that go along with that, life purpose and all the things that go
Hmm.
along with that, and then health and wellness and all the things that go along with that. So let's just like hit each of these buckets, and how can they use these numbers to help them in each of these buckets?
Okay, that's a great question because you're right. You can use these numbers in them. One for the relationships is one you can look at your numbers versus somebody else's numbers and kind of see where you would need more communication or understanding, that kind of thing. So, like a seven with a six, six is like communication and like to be connected. Well, sevens will need their time. Well, the six can understand that the seven needs their space and then they'll come and connect. It'll create more harmony in their life than otherwise. So there's a lot with understanding everybody's numbers, but on your own, when relationships, you can understand your own way. So, like if you're a seven, knowing, hey, I need to self isolate sometimes, let me communicate that with my partner or other people that live with me. So that way they would know. So there's things like that. If you understand those pieces, you can now communicate it and set your boundaries and things like that. Now, when we start talking about the other things, so like for personal growth, we'll go into that. So, like if you have a lot of compassion, oh, go ahead.
So before we move on from relationships, how
Okay.
about like finding a relationship? Can they use these numbers to like who would be the best match for them?
Yeah, I mean, you could, yeah, you would be able to use the numbers to kind of see how, I hate to really kind of use compatibility of whether you're going to like, yes, this person, no, this person, because there's so much stuff that goes into it. It's not just numbers. You don't want to live your life just by numbers or just by astrology, right? You want to use them as tools to help you in analyzing what you want to do. So if you're finding somebody and you can run their numbers and be like, okay, my numbers versus their numbers, we're going to have a lot of, you can kind of figure out where you want to struggle and not struggle, if that makes sense, right? Like if you're somebody that needs to self isolate, I've had people that had 3 7s, so they're very good on being by themselves. They would have a hard time being with somebody that had a lot of 2s and 6s. There would be a lot of friction that way. So then it comes to a point, it gives you more information to make a decision on whether you want to continue on with that relationship and take on the struggles and the good stuff too with it, or if you want to step back and be like, well, maybe that might not be it. Maybe here's another one that has all 7s too, so man, we're gonna have a lot in common, right? So you can use it in alignment that way. Maybe not necessarily like, hey, find me a mate, right? It's not forecasting or fortune telling, but it gives you a lot of data to then be able to make a good decision on what you want to do, whether you want to leave or stay or that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yep, yep. And I agree. And also like we've been talking about romantic relationships, but there's all sorts of different kinds of relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
so um can you use these numbers to like, will this person naturally have this quality or that quality, like leadership or compassion or
Yep. Oh
world
yeah. Numbers.
traveler?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So like if they have lots of 5s, 5s are adventurers. They're gonna want to do things and be kind of like out there and kind of stuff. So yeah, you would get an idea of what their traits are. And you can also look at what they're like. If somebody has a lot of 1s or 4s or 8s, they're going to be a natural leader. But if they're in the shadow side, they're going to be very controlling and very manipulative. So there's things you can kind of look at and going, okay, then you can kind of gauge where they're at based on their numbers because they're going to act out their numbers. And so yeah, it'll definitely get, and you can use this for siblings, for you know family members, friends, coworkers. If there's workers you don't get along with and you want to figure out better ways that I can have a better relationship with them, knowing their numbers would help you do that. So yeah, there's a lot to these.
Has anybody ever come to you um to like build a team and they're like, let's do the numbers and see if this would make a good team?
I haven't had anybody do that yet with me. But one thing so going back to the relationship, so there was one I did numbers for a lady that her son was autistic and nonverbal. And so I did his numbers and it made so much sense on what he liked to do and what he was didn't, like there all this stuff. And it gave her an idea of knowing how to handle different situations because now she understands his numbers. So like one he had the 6 number and he also had a 5 number. So it's like he likes to have adventures, but then he needs to come home and have like a safe space or make sure he has, those kinds of things. So that way if you ever had to move or do something, you can accommodate because now you know his number. So that's another way that it could help is family member or parents that have like nonverbal children, you can now understand a little bit more about them and help them. So that's been one of the biggest things I think I've found. I haven't had anybody come to me about team stuff. It's usually more on the personal side, but that would be interesting because you would get an idea of who would get along and who wouldn't based on the numbers. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So now you raised a new question, and I will go back to the four thing in a second,
Okay.
four
Yeah.
pillars in a second. But, okay. So nonverbal. So
Hmm.
now, like parents who just had a baby, would it be ethical or non-ethical, nurture versus nature, to like nurture what their traits to be based on their numbers before they've even, you know,
Hmm. Oh
developed?
yeah. Yeah, I've actually had some people want to know the numbers of a baby that, like a grandma came to me and was wanting to know the numbers of the baby, to kind of, because yeah, if let's say the baby has a lot of like 6s and 2s, they're going to have boundary issues, but be very compassionate. So you can start teaching them how to have boundaries, how to do healthy boundaries, right? You can learn those kinds of things to help them. So now they're not going to struggle the rest of their life because they're going to already find balance earlier in their life and be able to be more in alignment with their numbers at the beginning versus waiting until they're 40, 50, until they're later in life kind of thing. So yeah, it's definitely, I don't think it's unethical because they're going to act out those numbers one way or the other. So it's kind of like, it gives you, again, it's another tool in the toolkit, just like knowing what their astrology is and their sun signs and all that stuff. It gives you tools to understand that person. And as a parent, yeah, you can use it to help guide them. I use it with my kids and help them as well. So yeah, it's kind of cool. Good question. I love that question.
Yeah. So the reason why I say ethical, unethical is like, so a lot of times, well, back when I was in corporate America, um, you know, all the companies I work for, they all did their own various versions of personality tests, like
Hmm.
Enneagram and Myers-Briggs and all the different things, right? And and I sort of have an aversion to be put in a box, you know? Like
Hmm.
they're tools to help you, but at the same time, one feels like I could grow and develop and I could, you know, not be
Hmm.
that anymore. And I don't want you to just treat me like this number that you gave me.
Right.
So okay. So here's the question.
Okay. All
Maybe
right.
maybe you can answer it and maybe you can't. It's like, how about all the people that are going to be like, well, what about free will and versus predetermined destiny? Like, what if I want to have traits that aren't associated with these numbers or
Yeah, so that's a great question because we do have free will, right? And kind of here's the thing. There's a couple things I'm going to bounce around a little bit, but one is the nature versus nurture, right? The thing is by these numbers, this is who you are, like kind of your traits as a person. So you can always learn new traits. You can always grow. You can always move into other things and learn other things. You can have the free will to do that. But underlining, this is going to be your baseline. It's going to be where your starting point basically. So like, if I have a chart that has all like ones and fours and 22s kind of in it, they're going to be leaders and architects, they're going to be ambitious and driven. They're not going to naturally go towards more compassion, but they can always learn compassion, but it's going to take them a minute to learn the compassion because it's not going to come as natural to them. So understanding where your baseline is helps you in going to where you want to go. So yeah, it doesn't stop you from learning other traits or moving around. It just gives you a baseline of this is where I'm starting from. Hopefully
uh,
that answered right. And I think that, yeah. So I think that's a little different. I'm with you. I don't like labels. I don't like being put in a box. I like understanding who I am. And I like the numbers give me an idea. But then I'm like, okay, but I can also identify otherwise as too. And I can move, life experience, kind of like what environments we are in, what we learn when we're children changes things. So, like with your numbers, real quick, I'll give you an example. So, when I see fives and threes together, either multiple fives or multiple threes, what happens is when you're a kid, you're very energetic, and especially you probably ask a lot of questions. Why this? Why that? You wanted to ask a lot of questions and all that stuff. And sometimes our parents might tell us, calm down, you're being too loud, you're being too much. And sometimes we'll end up dimming those sides of ourselves. So it'll cause you to not be as outgoing, as an energetic, enthusiastic until you learn to overcome what has been told to us. So it just gives you guidance, basically. It's a good tool and guidance, I think. So yeah. Hopefully that answers your question.
it does, but I think it also speaks to the fact of um, one's own ability to fall into versus claim something new, right? So, like,
Mhm.
we could say, this is my default behavior, this is what traits, this is what I was born with. But if I don't like that, I can develop and I can
Mhm.
expand beyond that.
Yep.
Um, or I can just be like, woe is me. These are the traits I was born into, and this is who I am, and you just have to live with
Mhm.
it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the free will part of it, right? We get to decide what we want to do with the information that we're given. And then, but also too, like, let's say, as like, I don't like my traits, but I want to go into something else. Well, if my traits have a lot of self-doubt, I'm going to have to overcome self-doubt to step into those new traits. So now I have guidance on exactly what I need to do to get to where I want to go. So that's another way that they become like a tool. But yeah, it's up to us to figure out what we want to do. You know, you see it a lot in astrology, right? When somebody's like, "Oh, you're a Pisces. I don't date Pisces," right? They automatically judge and stop, or like, I'm just a Libra, so this is what I do, right? Those are people that are stuck in in that identity and they want to stay stuck in it. That's up to them. But they can use those information to grow and become who they want to become if they want to. So I don't know. That's just my opinion on the whole thing.
No, love it. Okay, so we talked about relationships. Let's talk about purpose and
Okay. Yeah. So with the numbers, let's with your purpose. So again, your life path number is your purpose. So your purpose, but it's not like it doesn't give you like you should be a teacher, right? Like but it gives you an idea of like if you're leaning towards a teacher, then it can give you like with your other numbers, like we were just talking about with you, 1 or 3, you're about your life purpose is something about communicating, expressing yourself, that kind of thing. And then you've got your 7 and your 9, as we were talking about. So the like learning new things, community, well, you're humanitarian. So it's about not only helping people, but creating some type of change in the world around you. So you can use all that to kind of go, okay, instead of just being an artist, I'm going to throw paint on a canvas. It's more about maybe it's having a podcast that helps other people. And does this all align with my numbers, which yours is right along. It's a great example of how it all aligns. I've had some that have a lot of 6s and 9s that are social workers. So it's about helping people and how do you want to, serve the world and stuff like that. But it gives you an idea. But if you had a lot of 5s and you're sitting in a corporate job, sitting in a cubicle, it'll drive you nuts because 5s do not like to do the same thing day in day out. They'll go absolutely crazy. So it gives you an idea of like what I should be doing and what I shouldn't be doing. Where is it going to drive me crazy? If I had a lot of 1s, if somebody has a lot of 1s, they're meant to pave their own path and do their own thing. So if they're in like an environment where they have a micromanaging manager, they're going to be freaking miserable. So it gives you an idea of like, like if you had job opportunities, which way do I want to lean? Looking at, this one gives me freedom, this one doesn't. Let me go to the freedom. What's going to make me more happier going forward? So that's where I think in the purpose it helps out a lot.
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah. I mean, I can totally relate because I got a ton of experience and wisdom from working my way up to the top of the ladder in corporate. And, as an entrepreneur, not every day is easy.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's there are times in my journey as an entrepreneur where I'm like, should I just go get a corporate job? It's so much easier. And then I'm like, oh, I don't think I could do it. I don't think I could do it ever again. Um,
Right.
it's just like when you are put into a place that feels super aligned,
Mm-hmm.
you look at the other place and you're like, I can't.
Yep. Exactly.
I can't. I could try it, but it won't work out.
It won't work out. Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Exactly. So, yeah. So
Okay.
this is, yeah. Okay. So now the next one. What's the next one?
Health and wellness.
Health and wellness. Okay. So this one is really interesting too because it can give you ideas and help you. So if we're talking about mental health and wellness, right? When we talk about wellness, we're going to talk about everything because we're beings, right? We're multi-dimensional kind of beings. So you got things like self-doubt that might hang out there. You might have like, do I need to work on boundaries? There's also like if I'm a 5, like you're a 5, right? If I'm a 5, I'm going to have a hard time doing the same thing day in, day out. So if I'm going to want to learn how to like lose weight and I've got to work out so many days and stuff, I cannot force myself to do the same thing day in, day out. That 5 will revolt. It will get derail you every single time. So instead, you learn how to add play into it, change up the rhythm so that you don't get bored with it, and then you can stay on it. So it's things like that, like understanding those things can help you overcome whatever block is preventing you from stepping into the health and wellness kind of thing. If that makes less than you're nodding along. So I'm like, okay, good.
No,
So
it
that's
totally
how
makes
numbers
sense.
can help you.
Where I'm staying right now is in a gated community, so there's like one way in and one way out. And so when I go for walks, I'm like, how can I change this up? Like, you know?
Yeah, how can I do a different, like something different? Yeah, how do I? Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
so understanding that will help you like not feel because otherwise, if you're a 5 trying to live in a 4 world, right? Our world loves 4s. They love discipline, the same thing, all that stuff. You're gonna feel out of place. You're gonna feel like you're broken or something's wrong with me. Why can't I figure this out? Why am I struggling so hard with doing this? And so instead, it's just you got to get creative, and you got your 3, so your 3 can help you be creative. Let's have fun with it. Let's figure out other things that will work for us. So, yeah, so there's a lot of different things. And then, like I said, with the mental and the emotional, what are some of the shadows, like shadow work I need to do? Um, like 9s are really, they're self-sacrificers. They'll give and give and give till there's nothing left to give, and then they give and give and give. So learning how to like, you're allowed to rest, you're allowed to take time for yourself, give yourself grace. So there's different things like that that's like, okay, these are the things I need to be giving myself. So instead of like, it's kind of like a diet, right? Or like a workout. Like I want to like get lean. I'm not going to sit and do a bodybuilder workout. I want to do the workout I need to get lean. So that's kind of what the numbers do. They give us the workout for the lean, not the bodybuilding. So it's like, okay, these are the things I want to work on, not everything, and see what works. So yeah, I'm talking a lot. I
Oh,
geek out on these numbers.
yeah. You should be talking a lot. Um, and I've heard somewhere else, I think, that three is also like the child energy. And so it's a little bit rebellish. And so that's where my, break all the rules comes from. Or
You're,
I shouldn't say that. I'm not a sort of, I want to break all the rules. I don't abide by rules that are senseless.
yep. Yep, exactly. So yeah, your three is your joy number, and so is your five. Your five is like I always say, five's almost like your inner child because like they want to explore the world. They have this like ability to want to see new things, try new things, just like a kid would, right? So you got both of those. And so those two together makes it like that. And then you have your seven over there that's analytical, that's like, well, this is stupid because you're very highly intelligent. That seven's got a lot of intellect in it. And so you're like, that's dumb. I'm not going to follow that rule. I'm going to go over here and do this stuff because this is more fun. So yeah, it's like kind of a combination. But yeah, your three is definitely that joy, kid like when we lean into it. So yeah.
Yeah, so why I was bringing that up is because you were talking about um sort of like you have to do this in order to get that, and and society and expectation,
Mm-hmm.
like for society is all about fours and things like that.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
my tag phrase is there's always a better way. Is like,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't find that four works for you, there's nine other numbers.
There is. There's all these other ways, and we get taught and told this is the box you're supposed to fit in. Well, if I'm not a box, I don't want to fit in there. And so our numbers allow us to kind of like, because we've never taught another way. I know I wasn't, right? And like society and stuff likes to like, no, you're a square. You're going to go in this box. I'm like, I don't want to go in the box. I don't belong in the box. So how do I figure out that I can still live in the world that we're in and thrive in it without feeling like I have to be a box when I don't want to be a box? So that's where the numbers come into play, and understanding yourself allows you to lean into that more. Yeah, I'm the same as you. I like to lean away from the little bit of a rule, kind of the same, right? If the rule's dumb, I'm like, that's dumb, I'm not doing that. I have a 3-2, so I'm right there with you, like, man, there's always a better way. There's always a different, well, it's more like, I don't like to say like better way, but there's like, or a right way or a wrong way. It's what's best for you and what's aligned for you. And so what might be aligned for you may not be in alignment for me. So I've got to go find what's aligned for me. And so that's what like it kind of boils down to. So it's just my thoughts on it.
No, you're right in alignment with my meaning for it. So, better way is that if it's hard or it's impossible or there isn't a solution, then
Hmm.
that means that there's an alternative, and it possibly is in this realm of you don't know what you don't know. Um,
Right.
and so it it was I created it in the first place because people kept saying that's impossible, that doesn't exist, or society would never let that happen, or all the things. And I'm like, Psh, I don't conform to any of that. I don't
Right. Yeah,
share
I'm with you
those
on that.
beliefs.
Yeah. Hmm.
And so it's just like it is specific to you. It's like, what is your better way for this particular situation, so that
Yeah.
you, because the end goal is, I believe, this is my personal belief, that you can have it all, that you do not have to give up anything out of um equality, or not equality as far as people, but like there isn't enough time, or there isn't enough
Hmm.
resources, or whatever. Like, you can physically have it all, and you can
Yeah.
enjoy the process. It doesn't have to be hard, it doesn't have to be a mountain climb, it doesn't have to,
Hmm.
like, I don't believe in this, like, nothing worth having comes easy, or
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's all
all
that.
that.
That's
It's
all that conditioning. Yeah. I'm with you on that. That's icky. Yeah. Yeah. I believe the same thing, right? That we can have everything if we want to. It's overcoming those things. It's overcoming those limiting beliefs that happen that, yeah, that says, no, we can't. And it's like, well, I don't like the word can't. I always teach my kids that. There's no, it's like I may not want to. I'm going to choose whether I want to or not, but don't tell me I can't do something.
Yeah. It's funny because this came up for me earlier today too. It's like Abraham Hicks says all the time, like a belief is just a thought you continue to think, and then the law of attraction brings you the evidence that you're right, and therefore you keep thinking it, and therefore you
Mhm.
believe it.
Yep.
And so yeah, if you think you can't or it's impossible, then it's going to be so. And so that's why I came
Yeah.
up with this tag
I
phrase.
love it. Yeah, I love it. What is there? There's another saying. If you think you can or you think you can't, either way you're right because it's whatever you want. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
Henry
yeah.
Ford.
I love it.
All right, so the last one I think was finances.
Finances. Okay. So, I mean, finances is a couple different things, right? So you can look at like what job you want to have. Also like just like we are kind of talking about what kind of limiting beliefs I may have on money and why I can't have money. Or it can also lead you into if I want to create my own business or do my own thing, what do I want to do? Like a lot of people want to do that, right? They want to do their own thing. How do I do that? And they have no idea. Like, I don't know where to go. Well, let's look at your numbers. Your numbers might give you some clues on what you want it, like what might be aligned for you, and then we can start looking down those paths on it. So there's a lot of different ways, or even just trying to like a side hustle and stuff. But I think for that, there's no like direct line to it. Other than unless you want to do readings of numerology or become a reader and learn how to do the same thing, right? And you can do it that way. But there's also the numbers can lead you down whatever path to have more money. So kind of like for us, right? Like I wanted to do something different, so I wanted to step out and do my own thing. So I wanted to look at modalities and I looked at my numbers and what was aligned and then I looked into it. For me, like my three, because I have a lot of like the ones and I have a one, a four, and or a 22 and an eight. So I have a lot of that ambitious, goal oriented kind of stuff. My three was being left in the dust. I would like 5 years ago, I wouldn't even do this. Like I would be so nervous. I couldn't even speak in like a little group. Like if somebody asked what my name was, I'm like, Janet, like I'm like sweating, like don't I want to talk to anybody? And so now that I'm posting on social media, doing all that stuff because I leaned into my three, now my dreams can come true because now I'm leaning into, all my numbers. So it's kind of like that. Like I think it's more in a maybe not a direct line, but an indirect line to help you get to your finances and what you want to do with your money, what you need to overcome, that kind of thing. Hopefully that answers it.
Yeah, but I would add to that in that if you're aligned, money will come easier
Mm-hmm.
than if you're not aligned. So if you're a born leader and you're just acting as a follower and doing um, grunt work or
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to like sound like I'm putting anybody down. It's not that. It's more of like leaning into what your skills and traits are, what your natural inclination is versus um or just
Yep.
following. I'm trying not to be like derogatory, but like follow the herd, just like
Right.
one of the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not going to work out as good for you.
Yeah, you're going to end up like it's going to be like trying to push a boulder up a hill because you're going to be pushing against everything that you're naturally went to. So yeah, you're right. The flow would come when you like lean into your numbers and then be like, okay, if I'm supposed to be a natural leader and pave my own path, now I've got to figure out what's holding me back. What are those fears? What are the things underlying that prevents me from being a leader? And then once I step into that leader role, it's like, oh, here it is, and now things will flow a lot easier. It won't be so hard. We won't have to be pushing that boulder uphill to make money. And that's sometimes what we try to do. We try to take what somebody else has done and do what they're doing, and it's not aligned. So it's it's going to be really painful to get it to work. Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's interesting because when I started my entrepreneur journey, I started out with speaking from stages and teaching, and I was teaching about technology for your entrepreneurship business, and so I was up on stage and very animated and all the stuff, and I like needed hours after that in order to recharge. Like it, my battery was beyond empty,
yep.
and people used to think that I was such an extrovert and that was required and all the things. They didn't like see the behind the scenes of
Hmm.
the recharge and all of that stuff. And so for me, like I did go around my natural inclination, but I also knew how, like, knew what I needed, knew what my things were. And so this goes back to that sort of nature versus nurture, is like, just because your traits are one thing doesn't mean you have to abide by them at all times, but you do need to take care of yourself at the same time.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. So how did you get into this?
Okay. So, a few years ago, I forget how many more it was been now, but I kind of got on my spiritual journey, and part of it was we had a traumatic death in our family. We had my brother-in-law unalived himself in front of my sister, and so I had to take on my sister and stuff. And it's kind of like the the coping mechanism, my survival techniques, right? The things that we build up over time of that gets us through life and allows us just to kind of meh life. All of a sudden I now am having to take care of my sister, and I have, I'm a single mom and I've got all this stuff on my plate. It's kind of like the whole world imploded all at once, right? I no longer had the bandwidth to continue to not set boundaries and say yes to everybody. I couldn't do that anymore. Like everything I was doing, it all crashed. And so I was like, I've got to find a different way to do this. This is not going to work for me anymore. I think sometimes in like tarot, it's called your tower moment, or wake up call, like whatever it is, right? It caused an awakening for me to go, I can't do this way anymore. I need to go do something else. And so then that just allowed me to get on my path. So I was open to anything. That's when I got into a group that's where I learned a lot of the stuff that I learned in. It was aligned with me. It's kind of one of those that pops up, it comes in the same time. I started doing the classes and I loved it. And that's what led me. The very first lesson they taught us was about our angelic numerology chart and what it was. And then I went into all the rest of the stuff. And then I'm a big nerd. And so I leaned way into the numerology part. It's kind of like I talked to my team, my angelic teams, and things like that, my spirit guides, to help me, and that's where they're gearing me towards, because they're like, this is a way you can kind of help people resonate with their birthdays. Everybody wants to know what their birthdays is. So the more that I did this, I did a deep dive learning what regular numerology is versus angelic numerology, the differences of them. And then I started doing videos on TikTok. So I started doing, actually, it started at a fair I went to. I was a vendor at a fair and I was selling my journals. I have journals that are based on your life path number. They're like guided coaching journals. And I was selling those at a thing. And one of my sign was, your birthday has a story to tell. Want to know what it is? Just ask. And so people would come up and they'd be like, oh, I want to know what my birthday has, what the story is. So I like, what's your birthday? And I'd write it down. And there's one guy, I vividly remember this guy. His jaw was on the floor. He's like, how do you know all this about me? He's getting his friend, come over, listen to this. Listen to this. I have no idea who this guy is. And I'm here telling all his secrets. And so it's like, okay, this is something, right? And so then I went on to TikTok just to play around, and I put a video out. And next thing I know, people are putting their birthdays in, and then I'm telling them about their birthdays. And again, the people I get messages is like, this is exactly what I needed. I had a teacher that retired and needed to know what the next thing she was going to be. She was like, this is message exactly what I needed to know what I'm doing next. And so the more that happens, the more like I'm just like, okay, this is what I'm meant to do, is to help them, because it's a good guide. It's almost like having an owner's manual that we never knew existed. So yeah, I geek out on it, but that's kind of my origin story.
No, I love it. I love it. And, I'm an engineer, so I'm a geek by default.
Right. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
you talked about earlier, and you just reminded me of this, of your numbers and social media, and there being some kind of alignment there. Can people actually use their angelic numbers to determine, like, how to promote their business? Like, what's the
Mhm.
best way? Oh,
Yep.
that's
Yeah, it's also very similar to like human design. People hear that a lot too. But yeah, you can totally use your numbers as a way to figure out how you want to show up on social media, leaning into them and stuff like that. Yeah. So like, okay, so let's say none of your numbers had three in it. So you weren't a communicator. You're more one of these like little shy that maybe you had a lot of twos and sixes, a lot of compassion. You care about people. You want to help people, but you're like, I am not getting in front of a camera. Well, then it's like, again, it's learning the better way, right? What is the better way to do this? I don't have to show up on camera. Maybe it's with memes or meditations or different things that don't have that faceless. There we go. Those kinds of things. So how do I find what will work for me? Because if I'm those numbers, twos and sixes, and I'm trying to be on camera, I'm going to be flustered. I'm going to have a hard time. People aren't going to resonate with me. I'm going to be down on myself. Like it can lead down in those paths. Whereas doing something different might actually create, oh, this feels good. I'm helping people and I don't have to be in front of the camera. So, yeah, your numbers will really help you decide what is going to work best for you. So,
Yeah, and I can give my own example on this without even having known that I did it this way. Because when I first started out, I did all of the social medias because I was teaching technology for entrepreneurship. And so I did them all, and I was posting on all of them, and I was doing it specific to um, their each strengths, right? So,
mm-hmm.
so images versus video versus text, yada yada. And I was keeping the analytics. I was like watching what was working, what wasn't working, and doing all the things. And looking at my conversion rate and all the stuff. And I just was like, this isn't doing it for me. Like this is not a good use of my time. The amount of money and time that's going into social media is not returning on investment. And so I just shut it all off. Everything. I shut it all off and did not actually get any business hit. Like it did not lessen my business at all. Um, and so when I was coming back, when I wanted to promote my new structure, I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to social media, but I'm going to be intentional about it. And so this podcast is the only thing that I've brought back. And, and I did it so that I could learn about modalities and help others learn about modalities so
Yeah.
that they could potentially use them if it felt aligned to
Mm-hmm.
help them find their better way. So again, it's leaning into philosophy and education,
Yep.
joy and fun.
Mm-hmm. And helping people. Yeah, it's right aligned with all. Yeah, and you probably feel the difference. You probably feel like lighter. You probably don't feel like as run down and like, you feel like, okay, this feels good and you're in the flow. Even though you have hard days, it's still like, okay, this is manageable. We're good. So yeah, yeah. So it can definitely help. So that way you're not, and then that way you don't have to feel the shame and guilt, right? Like we want to get away from shame and guilt. That's one of my big things is, but if we're looking at like, hey, everybody's saying you have to be on your face and you have to do all the stuff you're talking about, right? Everybody talks about you got to watch your analytics and post everywhere and do all this stuff. It's going to wear you out and you're going to feel like something's wrong with you. And then you're going to have that shame and guilt. Well, I can't do this because, and there's that can't, right? Like I can't do this because it's not working, da 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 da. And then it's never going to. And so now we have one other person that has silenced themselves or dimmed their light when we need them. We need the shine the light. They're going to help people. And so it's, yeah, like leaning into, okay, that doesn't work for me because that's not aligned with me. So let me move to what's aligned with me. Now I'm going to shine my light brighter because it's like, okay, now I'm doing what I need to do and it looks this way. So, yeah, it's
Yeah,
cool. It's so
yeah,
much stuff. It's cool.
yeah, yeah. I mean, on the same topic of social media, one of my greatest success stories of like find your better way is I had somebody come to me because I tell people, come to me with your impossible problems. Like, love it. Like, bring your impossible problems to me. And
Yep.
so this person comes to me and they used to be a social media manager and now they're doing light codes. And
Okay. Huh.
and when they started their business as a light codes, I don't know what the word is,
Mm-hmm.
but anyway, they deliver light codes. They were like, I don't want to do any social media because I am so social media'd out.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, great. And they're like, but I need a way to bring in clients. I don't want to do social media. I don't want to do ads. I don't want to do networking events. And I'm like, this is right up my alley, impossible problems, you
Great.
know?
Yes.
And so we were like, okay, how do we promote her business without her doing basically anything that is appearance related at all, right?
Yeah.
And so what we did figure it out. We did find something that felt aligned for her. So what we did was we put her in touch with communities of light workers and heart centered individuals. And she would free gift 1 month to every member of the community. And then in that free gift, she would promote her monthly membership. And
Nice.
yeah, so
Yeah.
she just had to, all she had to do was do outreach to community leaders, and then they would promote her to their community.
Yeah.
And so that is working for her.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Okay.
the point is like, um, you don't have to have these beliefs that social media is the only way or ads are the only way. There is, like I said, there's always a way to do
Mhm.
it in a way that feels aligned and feels right for you. So
Yeah.
anyway, I digress, but
No, that's good. I think we need to hear that because I know, especially if there's other, entrepreneurs listening to this and stuff, we get told this is what you got to do. You got to do this. You got to do these steps. Like I was in with a coach and they were like, "Oh, you got a DM and you got a friend farm on Facebook," and I'm like, "I don't want to do that. I don't want to cold DM people. I don't, and especially if you're doing spiritual kind of things and modalities, kind of like the light codes and stuff like that. Traditional marketing's not going to work. You can't like I'm in your DMs bugging the crap out of you. Now let me help you with your spiritual set. No, that's not going to work. So, yeah, it is having to figure out a better way, a different way of doing things. Yeah, it's cool that you're doing that. So,
yeah, and it's cool that you're giving people the door to know more about themselves, because a lot of people will come to me and they'll be like, I know I don't want to do this, but like I don't know what I do want to do.
mhm.
And
Yeah.
so it sounds like these angelic numbers are not only telling you about yourself, they're also telling you like what you like and what you don't like, and what will bring you joy and what will feel constricting. And you can use all of that information to determine like, am I a YouTuber or a TikToker, or am I a Instagrammer, or am I a
Mhm.
no social media at all, or
Right. Yeah. What is my path going to be based on? Yeah. Yeah, it definitely it helps because you're right. I mean, even like kind of going back to the health and wellness kind of thing, like I know when I first started it, everybody would be like, just love yourself. And I'm like, I don't know how to love myself. Like, how do I do that? Right? Like, that sounds great, but how do you do that? Well, then when you look at your numbers and like I have a one, so I'm very self-criticism. I put myself at a high expectation, and then if I don't do it, and then I have self-doubt. So learning to give myself grace and learning how to overcome my self-doubt and believe in myself and things like that, those gave me my avenues of I can be focused, right? Instead of being scattered, I can be focused. Let me focus on this. And then when I could overcome that, it's like, ah, then like a lot more things made sense and it made it a lot easier. And even now, I still sometimes will feel myself pull back into self-doubt. I'm like, no, no, I'm going to do this, right? Like I can catch myself because I know. But you're right, it does. It'll help us in understanding the how. Where do I need to go and stuff? Because we don't know that. We're not taught that.
right. And sometimes we just don't know the opposite, right? Like we know what we like, but we don't know what we don't like, or we know what we don't like, but we don't know what we like. So
Hmm.
it's to
Yeah.
have something that can help.
To help guide, yeah, to help you like have a better instead of trying to figure out everything, it yeah narrows it down. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's good. So
Awesome. So do you work with any other modalities? Because if you have some additional modalities and people are interested in learning, they can comment, like, share, whatever, and then we could maybe have you back to talk about those.
okay, yeah. So yeah, I do other modalities. The numerology is really kind of just getting like how to get people in the door, and then it gives us a baseline. One of my biggest thing I do is ego and inner child work. So this is my passion, because our ego, like we don't understand our ego. People don't understand ego and what we've been told and stuff. And normally, like you hear like ego death or different kinds of things. A lot of people don't like their ego. They just feel like it's something we have to just kind of deal with. And really, it's about becoming friends with our ego. And there's a way you can build a relationship with your ego. Understanding what your purpose of your ego is helps you then like have a relationship with it. And then you can start overcoming blocks that your ego is going to shut you down. Like sometimes we have because the ego's whole purpose is to protect us. Like it was like given a human when we were born, it was given a human here, help this human survive. Like that's what your whole thing is, help this human survive and stay alive. And so it learned through our childhood and stuff like that how to do that. So that's why, like, a lot of people, when people are triggered and stuff, they act childlike because they're going back to what they learned when they were children. So working with the ego, now we can learn how to reprogram it, basically give it new methods of how to deal with things, so that way when we're triggered, we don't go to the yelling and screaming at people. Instead, we know how to like calm ourselves or do different things like that, because we can work with our ego. I started this work with my daughter, actually, because I learned about the ego in the program that I was in. And my daughter was having a really hard time with, she was in a new job, and she was like having a hard time bonding with people and stuff like that. So I got the nudge to go do the ego work with her, and I did it with her. And we found out she has a very strong ego. We even named it. We even had a conversation last night about it. But she had a lot of anxiety in life and had a hard time and stuff like that. And so now, once she started learning how to talk to her ego and stuff, she got off all of her anxiety medicine. She doesn't need it anymore. She goes, Mom, I don't have anxiety anymore because I know how to handle life. Because I'm not just reacting to it. Now I know how to actually show up in the world, what works for me. When I get triggered, I know how to have conversations and all that stuff. So it's really big. I love working with it because it's a little different than what like the mainstream is on ego. And then the inner child is right there with it. And then when we're working with those, when you're talking with inner child, that's core wounds. So we have to be careful and gentle in the way that we work with it. Um, and sometimes the ego is protecting the inner child. So sometimes you can't go deep until you actually become friends with your ego, because it will not let you, it will block you off from all that and say, nope, we're not doing that, we're gonna redirect kind of thing. So yeah, so I do, that's one of my big modalities that I really love to do. And then of course I do energy work, so I do, chakra cleansing and different kinds of stuff like that as well. We have a thing called subcoding. So this is a way to, instead of like doing talk therapy to kind of release some of these negative emotions that we hold in our body, we're able to do it through subcoding. So there's a way that you can actually tap into your subconscious and release a negative emotion without having to sit and talk about all the other things. So it's like, it's a lot easier of a method in to release it. I just did that yesterday with somebody and I freaking love it. It's fun to see you can feel lighter afterwards. So those are a couple of the modalities I do.
Nice, nice. Yeah. So if anybody is interested in any of those, comment below and we'll have you back if
Okay.
you get enough interest. Yeah. Or maybe we'll just have you back anyway.
Right. Okay.
So if anyone is interested in getting in touch with you, working with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
Okay. So my website is redfeatherserenity.com. That's my company is Red Feather Serenity. Um, and in there, you'll be able to find, I have a free guide that talks about the numbers. So if you want to find out what your numbers is, it's a calculator, everything, you'll find that out. I also have a choose your own adventure email series. It's free. So you get to go in and, be a part of the story, because I got kind of like the marketing. That's a whole, like, your better way, right? Because I was like, I don't want to just send these marketing emails. I don't even open these marketing emails. Why am I going to send these to people that I wouldn't even open? So I was like, what's a better way? And so I was like, well, a story, right? I love a good story. And, our inboxes are kind of boring. When was the last time you went and opened your email? You were excited to see an email in there, right? And so I created this choose your own adventure email, which is based on your life path number. So it's going to be based on, specifically you. So yeah. So there's a lot, I have other things in there as well. So you'll find that there at the redfeatherserenity.com.
Nice. So tell me, what is the red feather about? Is there
Okay, so
a
yeah, there's a story behind it. Yeah, I'm glad you asked. So the red feather is, so I'm part Indian, Native American. My mom was, and so her Indian name was, it's like Red Hawk. That's kind of our family, Red Hawk. So it's like the red feather. But my mom was also a lawyer, and she was a tribal lawyer that, she did a lot of really cool things before she passed. And one of the things, whenever she would go in, she's like smaller than me, so she's a little bitty, but she had long black hair and stuff. And so the Indians, the warriors, would always wear red feathers in their hair when they were going to battle. And so she would always have the red feather. She would put red feathers in her hair and stuff like that. So it's kind of a tribute to my mom of the red feather, because she was one that, like, later in life found her path. She wasn't doing her path, and then later started doing her path. And so I'm kind of stepping in her footsteps. So it's kind of a nod to that for the red feather serenity. Yeah.
nice,
So
nice. I also have some Native American in me, a very small amount, but I do have some. But here's another symmetry for you, which is just
Okay.
mind-boggling, is back in the day. Do you remember the AOL days? Because you're 50,
Hmm.
you must remember. Well, I remember back in the olden days, and like joining um whatever it was at the time, but there were like these like chat threads and things like that back then.
Yeah.
And I remember not wanting my name to be attached to it, so I wanted a username that didn't have my name in it.
Uh-huh.
And so I picked Red Leaf
Oh,
because
okay.
yeah, because I too was thinking like nature and everything, and then I was thinking fall, and I was thinking when you think of fall and the vibrant colors of fall and nature, I was think like red leaves are my favorite. They're
Yeah.
just big and bright and whatever. So anyway, I just
Right. Yeah. No, that's cool. That's awesome.
um awesome. Okay, well, is there any last thoughts that you'd like to leave the community with?
Um, this one I'm on the spot for. I don't know, we talked about so much, so the biggest thing is if you have any questions or anything like that, I love answering questions on anything that has to do with either numerology or anything else. I'm like you, right? Like I love to be there. I love to support people. I think thank you for the opportunity to be on here and to talk about it. The more like I think there's a lot of stuff we can use with the numerology that can help us out. And I know in life we need all the help we can get. So another tool in our toolkit would be awesome. So thank
Yeah,
you.
sure. I'm an all doors kind of gal, like open them all so you can use
Mhm.
whichever ones work for you. Um, so thank you so much for being here. It's been such a delight to have this conversation with you, for
Yes.
you to share your wisdom, to teach us, and to help people, find a easier, more graceful, gentle, abundant, joyful path to live on, because that's really what matters in life, is to have
It
joy
does.
and freedom. And
Yep.
so thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. um Awesome. Yeah, so like I said, well, first, technology is our friend and it also likes attention. So please like, hype, share, comment, do all the things. Um, it really helps the algorithm to share this video out with those that need it, to help Janet get in front of the people that need her. Um, and yeah, technology loves it when you interact with it, and then it pays it forward by sharing this video. So please do all the things, like, share, hype, comment. Yeah, just do it all. And remember, if life feels hard, your tasks seem impossible, or you just don't like the options laid out before you, there is always a better way. My name is Melanie McSally once again, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Thank you for sticking around to the end. I want to share something special with you. Every couple of weeks, I bring the Wise community together for an experience. Many of the guests that you've listened to here on this show become my special Wise Guest Guide, where they take us on a customized journey featuring their gifts and aligned with the theme of the Wise experience. This year, in the Universal 1 year, 2006, we are planting the seeds of abundance and flowing with the duality between planning and living. Throughout the quarters, we follow the seasons of a garden, starting with winter, reflect, rejuvenate, and replenish, and closing the year out with fall, harvest, celebrate, and retune. These experiences were designed with compassion, joy, and abundance in mind. They are a mixture of reflection, connection, release, upliftment, and growth. They are open to all heart-centered souls at no cost. Near the end of each gathering, I invite participants to offer a suggested contribution of $8.88 US dollars, a number that aligns with abundance, prosperity, and infinite flow. You're welcome to give in accordance with the value you received and your means. All contributions go directly to the wise guide of that experience. You can learn more and apply to attend at stepinto.wyze.community/belong. The link is also in the description. And if you're interested in attracting more abundance, I've created the Year of Abundance program. When you join the Year of Abundance, you receive access to 2 live Wyze experiences each month of 2026. All replays of every gathering so you never miss a moment. Weekly integration prompts to support your growth. Access to the private program space on our online Wyze community platform for connection and discussion. Contributions to all Wyze Experience guest guides are included, past and present, plus a special physical gift mailed to your home. You can join at any time for a single payment of $288.82, that's US dollars. When you do, you'll receive access to all recordings for the year of 2026. And your contributions will flow to the wise guides who have already shared their wisdom, all in alignment with the natural flow of abundance. You can learn more and join stepinto.wyze.community/abundance. The link will also be in the description. Remember, joining the Abundance program is never a requirement for attending any live experience. Everyone is welcome. There is always a better way, and I'd love to support you in finding yours.